Chapter 1141. Thinking of this, Emo Chenxian broke out in a cold sweat. After he succeeded, he must find the other party and kill him to prevent future troubles. Thinking of this, Emo Chenxian suddenly remembered Feng Wan's real voice. No one knew that he had a special ability, which was to imitate the voice of anyone he had heard. As long as it was a voice he had heard, he could imitate it. Then he would ask people to find the person according to the voice. I must find this heavenly divine doctor and kill him. Emo Chenxian thought of this, but did not know that Feng Wan also wanted to kill him. If she could not control the Saint Emperor of the Empire of Qin, what was the use of keeping this idiot? There were thousands of descendants of the royal family of the Empire of Qin. Did he really think that she had to find him and help him to the throne? After being a martial king for a period of time, he really thought that he was a noble descendant. He had completely forgotten what he was like before, hadn't he? He even dared to call her a bitch. Feng Wan sneered. She had already sentenced him to death in her heart. Seize the dragon energy in Ma Chenye's body for him? Of course she would seize it for him. Not only that, she would also seize all the power and aura in his body. It was time to eat a piece of fat meat that she had kept for so long. After seizing the dragon energy in Ma Chenye's body, she would absorb all the power and aura in his body. By then, she should be able to achieve her goal of breaking through the Saint Realm, right? Thinking of this, Feng Wan's smile became even colder. The skill of seizing luck that she taught Emo Chenxian was originally tampered with. Unfortunately, the other party did not know that he was just a pig that she had kept. After she killed him and absorbed his power, she would find a chance to help a descendant of the royal family of the Empire of Qin rise to the throne. Wasn't it the same? Idiot. Feng Yuan's eyes were cold as he replied, "Okay. I will help you. Tonight at midnight, I will activate the skill of seizing luck for you and seize all the dragon energy in Ma Chenye's body. You just have to wait. Just wait for death." Feng Yuan sneered. At the same time, she also wanted to see what was causing trouble in Ma Chenye's body. It actually prevented the art of seizing fate in Emo Chenxian's body from absorbing his dragon qi. There was no way it was a 7-leaf blood-refining lotus. Feng Yuan was very clear about this. She thought of the fact that Emo Chenxian had drugged her. Could it be that the Saint Emperor had already sensed something at that time, and also discovered that something was wrong with Ma Chenye's body? Then, he asked the Saint Transcendence to stop the art of seizing fate from absorbing the dragon energy in Ma Chenxian's body. If that was the case, it was not impossible. After all, the amount of heaven and earth spirit qi that a transcendent saint could use was astonishing. If he wanted to stabilize the dragon energy in Ma Chenye's body and prevent it from being absorbed by Emo Chenxian, it was still possible. However, that was only when the art of seizing luck in Emo Chenxian's body was operating on its own. If she activated it, then no matter how the other party tried to stop her, he wouldn't be able to stop her. As Feng Yuan thought of this, she suddenly smiled proudly. When she broke through to the saint state, she wanted to see what evil Dr. Ghost Eye and Luo Qingtong could use to compete with her. By then, she could completely merge with the heaven and earth elixir fire that the wisp of smoke gave her, and directly become an alchemist. So what if I don't have the talent to become an alchemist? I have the elixir fire, and can still become an alchemist directly. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye, I will never lose to you. Chapter 1142. Feng Yuan sneered. The grand event about the hidden world was about to begin. At that time, she would make Luo Qingtong lose face in front of thousands of people, and make her suffer a fate worse than death. Just as Feng Yuan and Emo Chenxian cut off contact, Luo Qingtong also came to the celestial prison with the imperial edict personally issued by the Emperor of the Empire of Qin. Seeing Emo Chenxian sitting in the cell, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed slightly. The bloody light in her eyes burst out, and then she laughed softly. It seems that I came at the right time. She looked at Emo Chenxian meaningfully. With Luo Qingtong's eyesight, she naturally saw that the skill of seizing fate in Emo Chenxian's body seemed to have been touched by someone. Besides Emo Chenxian himself, who else could touch the skill of seizing fate in his body? Naturally, it was that heavenly doctor. Looks like you've made contact with that heavenly medicine sage. That saves me a lot of trouble. Luo Qingtong originally thought that when she was nourishing Ma Chenye's dragon qi, she would exchange blows with the heavenly doctor, who was hiding behind Mo Chenxian. She missed him very much. She missed the treasures he gave her. However, the other party did not take any action. Luo Qingtong was quite disappointed. Now that she was about to reverse the skill of seizing fate in Mo Chenxuan's body, that heavenly doctor suddenly appeared. What a pleasant surprise! It was not in vain that she did not even bother to interrogate those outer disciples of the celestial palace, and directly came to see Mo Chenxian. Luo Qingtong laughed softly. That clear laughter was so pleasing to the ears of others. But in Mo Chenxuan's ears, it was as if he had seen a ghost. You. He looked at Luo Qingtong in horror, and raised his trembling hand to point at her. He did not know how she knew that the heavenly doctor behind him was that heavenly doctor. She also knew that he had just contacted the other party. This woman was simply too terrifying. In the past, Mo Chenxian looked down on Luo Qingtong and thought that she could only be his slave. Before Luo Qingtong came in, Mo Chenxian still looked down on her. However, he did not expect that the other party would actually expose the matter of the heavenly doctor divine hand behind him. In an instant, cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Mo Chenxian felt that he had underestimated Luo Qingtong all this time. He had always thought that this young girl from the Marquis's mansion from an inferior country only had a little talent. But now, it seemed that the other party was not as simple as having a little bit of talent. Mo Chenxian suddenly realized that ever since Luo Qingtong came to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, he had been having a hard time. Let's not talk about the fact that he couldn't absorb Ma Chenye's dragon energy. But every time he wanted to deal with Luo Qingtong, he would be rebuked by her. Was this just a coincidence? In the past, Mo Chenxian only thought that it was the Grand Dean and Ma Chenye who protected Luo Qingtong, so he had to go back. But now, he suddenly thought of something. Why would the other party protect Luo Qingtong? What did this girl from the inferior Eastern Fence country have that was worthy of their protection? Mo Chenxian was shocked. For the first time in his life, he felt that he seemed to have overlooked something. He was just about to trigger the connection in his mind and tell the heavenly doctor what he had discovered and ask her to be careful. Luo Qingtong knew about their relationship. Chapter 1143. That won't do, Your Highness. Luo Qingtong's face was full of smiles. I still want to have some fun with this heavenly doctor's sage hand. You can't ruin my plan. Since Luo Qingtong dared to tell Mo Chenxian that she knew about them, she was not afraid that he would tell the news to the heavenly doctor. She waited for him to make a move and see if he was the one she thought he was. Take him away, Luo Qingtong ordered calmly. As she waved her hand, Mo Chenxian suddenly found that two internal guards of the imperial house of the Empire of Qin walked towards him. What was going on? Mo Chenxian looked at the two approaching internal guards in shock. He didn't know why the internal guards of the Empire of Qin would listen to Luo Qingtong's order. And he glanced around and found that everyone outside the prison was respectful to Luo Qingtong. He was still immersed in the shock of Luo Qingtong calling out his connection with the heavenly doctor, and did not notice this. What's going on? This is the prison. I'm King Wu of the Empire of Qin. Even if I'm disabled, she has no right to tell me what to do. Let me go. Where are you taking me? Mo Chenxian struggled to be taken out of the prison cell. The two internal guards of the Empire of Qin firmly held him down and didn't give him any room to escape. Mo Chenxian wanted to use force at first, but the two internal guards directly dislocated his limbs and sealed his strength. Mo Chenxian was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. His handsome face was full of twisted expression. Let me go. Who allowed you to treat me like this? Ma Chenye? How dare he treat me like this for this woman? I'm a member of the royal family. Father will not let him go if he knows. Before he could finish his sentence, the inner guard beside him had already laughed coldly. Your Highness King Wu, don't worry. You don't need to worry about the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince has been announced as the only candidate for the Crown Prince. He is the next successor of the Emperor. As long as he is willing, he can inherit the throne at any time. More importantly, The emperor has promised him the ability to govern the country. So you don't need to worry so much. No matter what, the crown prince will be fine. But you, the internal guard sneered and looked at him and said coldly, "It is the emperor's order to hand you over to the heavenly doctor. Don't even think about struggling. Just leave with Lord Evil Doctor. Perhaps you can even die a good death. After all, His Majesty has already promised Lord Evil Doctor that she will control your life and death in the future." What? Hearing this, Imochen Xuan's face turned pale. He stared at the inner guard in shock. He could not believe his ears. His father's order. And the heavenly doctor? What heavenly doctor? Imochen Xuan's titi in his mind, for words appeared uncontrollably. The heavenly doctor Ghost Eye. And the internal guard seemed to see the panic and speculation in his heart. He sneered and said, "Yes, it is the heavenly doctor Ghost Eye. Imochen Xian, you didn't expect this, did you? Luo Qingtong is the heavenly doctor Ghost Eye." Chapter 1144. He slumped to the ground like a puddle of mud. The two guards didn't even look at him. They dragged him out of the prison like dragging a dead dog. When he was about to leave the prison, he saw the imperial guards and Ma Chenyi outside. When he saw the personal chamberlain of the great Qin sage emperor standing at the front, all the hope in Imochen Xuan's heart was shattered. Evil Doctor Ghost Eyes. Luo Qingtong was really the evil Doctor Ghost Eyes. And it was really his father's order to let her deal with him. Imochen Xian panicked in his heart. How could he talk about ambition if he lost his life? Luo Qingtong would never let him go. He wouldn't have any chance to turn the situation around. Even if he did absorb Ma Chenyi's dragon spirit in the end, so what? If he fell into the hands of Luo Qingtong, she would have countless ways to kill him. No. No. Luo Qingtong. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you everything about that heavenly doctor. Imochen Xian struggled with all his might. He didn't want to die. Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at him indifferently. With her eyesight, she could naturally see that the skill of seizing fate in Imochen Xuan's body was actually tampered with. He was bound to die, so she didn't need to do anything. That divine doctor should have made up his mind to kill Imochen Xian from the beginning. Thinking of the bewitching medicine that the emperor of the Empire of Qin had been drugged, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and could already guess the other party's plan. She should want to use Imochen Xian to destroy Ma Chenyi and control the emperor of the Empire of Qin. Then she would kill Imochen Xian and absorb his strength. What a good plan! She not only got the Empire of Qin, but also gained strength. She also swept away all obstacles. What a deep thought! What a vicious heart! But unfortunately she met her. Luo Qingtong asked someone to take Imochen Xian to the crown prince's mansion. The latter told him everything. This included the fact that the heavenly sage doctor was a woman who had been hiding her identity all along. Furthermore, the other party was preparing to make a move tonight. A woman. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. That heavenly holy doctor was actually a woman? Was this a coincidence? The other party was related to Feng Yuan and happened to be a woman. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and smiled. The truth of the matter was getting closer and closer. At this moment, Imochen Xuan's voice sounded again. Yes, the heavenly holy doctor was a woman. If she hadn't left a trace in her agitation, I wouldn't have known. I can imitate her voice for you. I want you to investigate her identity. But you can't deal with me. Luo Qingtong. Once you're done, you have to let me go. Don't hurt me and don't torture me. Imochen Xuan's body trembled. This was the only bargaining chip he could use to negotiate with Luo Qingtong. But he believed that Luo Qingtong would agree. After all, this was related to Ma Chenyi's life and death. And that heavenly holy doctor was hiding in the dark. She would definitely want to know. He knew that the heavenly holy doctor and the evil Doctor Ghost Eyes had some grudges. Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded carelessly. Perhaps Imochen Xian himself didn't know that he was doomed? What was there for her to deal with someone who was bound to die? Chapter 1145. With Luo Qingtong's promise, Imochen Xian relaxed at once. He imitated Feng Yuan's voice. Hearing this voice, Luo Qingtong smiled. It's her. Feng Yuan. She thought of the first princess of Great Yong, the first princess of Great Yong. She was the culprit who blinded the original owner's eyes and crippled her strength. She was targeted by the royal family of Tianyu and betrayed by her own sister. Luo Qingtong smiled meaningfully. Didn't Yuan Shui say that she was in love with Yu Wenmo? She wanted to marry him, but she had to give up because of the engagement with her. So the royal family of Tianyu desperately targeted Luo Qingtong to make room for Feng Yuan. How could she fall for Yi Qianxian in a blink of an eye? Thinking of the scene when she was in the capital of Great Chu, the heavenly doctor came to provoke her. If she had known that she was Feng Yuan, she would not have let her out of the gate of the capital of Great Chu Black Field. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She didn't care who she liked. She also didn't care if she liked or loved. But if she liked Yi Qianxian, she couldn't. She couldn't let anyone touch her man. She's going to make a move tonight? Luo Qingtong looked at Mo Chunxian with a smile. The smile on her lips was faint and cold. The blood-red color in his eyes also shone brightly, as if it contained boundless killing intent. I'll wait for her. At the same time, in the Great Yong dynasty, after Feng Yuan cut off the contact with Mo Chunxian, she immediately walked out of her Princess Royal's residence. Princess, the saint has ordered that you are still under house arrest and can't go out. The soldiers guarding outside directly put up their weapons and blocked her way. I want to see grandfather. I have something important to report. It's related to the fate of Great Yong. My luck has changed. Feng Yuan's expression was proud as he raised his head slightly and looked at the soldier. All of you, quickly go and report this matter to Imperial Father and Grandfather Bing. Because of the theft of Great Yong's fate, that saint transcendent from Great Yong did not immediately return to seclusion after being alarmed. Instead, he continued to deal with this matter. Furthermore, the affairs of the Great Yong dynasty had always been controlled by Feng Yuan. After the latter was grounded, there were a lot of things that no one knew how to deal with, so they all piled up there. The transcendent saint from Great Yong was so angry that he fiercely reprimanded the sage emperor of Great Yong. After that, he personally took care of these matters. He was in a terrible fix because of these matters. When he heard that Feng Yuan was looking for him, he immediately summoned him into the palace with a gloomy face. What do you want to say? Great-grandfather. Feng Yuan looked at this transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty and bowed to him. I can restore the fate of Great Yong. It can even make it stronger than before. Great-grandfather, please give me a chance. Lend me the authority to control the ancestral temple temporarily. She said with certainty. Oh, the transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty looked at her suspiciously. Are you really confident? Whether I am or not, great-grandfather, just wait and see. You will naturally know, Feng Yuan said proudly. After devouring the true dragon's fate and bloodline power in Ma Chenye's body, the fate of the Empire of Qin would definitely be shaken. At that time, she would be able to absorb some of it to replenish Great Yong's fate. At that time, Great Yong's fate would be restored and even stronger than before. She would also be able to return to her peak. She would regain the favor of the empire. Chapter 1146. All right. The transcendent saint of the Great Yong dynasty looked at her for a long time and finally decided to trust her and let her try. After all, before she was grounded, she had never disappointed him. Otherwise, he would not have allowed Feng Yuan to surpass the Great Yong emperor and control the affairs of Great Yong. In the eyes of this transcendent saint of the Great Yong dynasty, as long as Feng Yuan had the ability, so what if she wanted to become the invisible Great Yong emperor? He could fulfill her wish. But if she did not have the ability and wanted to mess around, he would not let her off easily. Thinking so, the transcendent saint of the Great Yong dynasty immediately gave her the authority to control the ancestral temple. Thank you, great-grandfather. After Feng Yuan obtained the authority to control the dragon energy in the ancestral temple, her heart was filled with confidence. She would definitely make up for her mistakes and become the first princess of Great Yong again. She would be conferred the title of princess. The Empire of Qin dynasty, the crown prince's residence. After knowing that Feng Yuan would take action tonight, Luo Qingtong immediately began her preparations. She had already stabilized the dragon energy in Ma Chenye's body. However, there was still something missing to reverse the luck-seizing technique. Luo Qingtang called Ma Chenye and Mo Chenxian to her room at the same time, and drew an inscription pattern on each of them. There was a small interlude in this. Luo Qingtang had just brought the two of them into her room, when Yi Qianxian followed behind. The corners of Luo Qingtang's lips twitched as she looked at the tall man, sitting on the soft couch in her room, without moving an inch. Yi Qianxian's gaze was fixed on them. Luo Qingtang did not doubt that if she asked Ma Chenye and Mo Chenxian to take off their clothes to draw the inscription pattern, Yi Qianxian would not hesitate to kill them both. Fortunately, Luo Qingtang's inscription technique had reached a very profound level. She had already grasped most of the intermediate-level inscription patterns and could draw a few high-level inscription patterns. Under such circumstances, it wasn't impossible for her to draw inscription patterns from afar. After all, not every inscription master required others to take off their clothes to draw inscriptions. As long as one possesses sufficient strength and a solid foundation, as well as a clear understanding of where the meridians of the human body are located, it doesn't matter. It just so happened that Luo Qingtang had all these points. Therefore, under Yi Qianxian's urgent gaze, she directly engraved inscription patterns on Ma Chenye and Mo Chenxian through their underwear. The power in Luo Qingtang's hands entered their bodies through their undergarments. 2 inscription patterns formed in their bodies one after another. Mo Chenxuan's eyes were filled with horror as he watched the inscription mark enter his body and disappear. He had no idea what Luo Qingtang had done to him. This fear of the unknown made him very afraid. After being caught and brought to the Crown Prince's mansion, Mo Chenxian realized how ridiculous he had been to despise Luo Qingtang. The girl's ability was strange and unpredictable. Her strength and talent were very powerful. What's more, she had the protection of the Blackfield Ming Zun. What was wrong with him at that time? He had to make life difficult for Luo Qingtang. He even wanted her to be his slave. This was ridiculous. But fortunately, he saved his life with the help of the heavenly doctor. After tonight, he would leave here immediately. He would stay far away and never get involved in this matter. Chapter 1147. The ability that Luo Qingtang showed was really beyond his expectation. He didn't know what the inscription brand that entered his body was, but it didn't prevent him from perceiving the power of the brand. The dragon chi in his body, after perceiving the aura of the brand, suddenly surged, as if it was very excited and close to it. The girl's ability was so powerful and changeable. She should be the divine phoenix in the 9th heaven. Even if she came to the world, she would rest in the strongest parasol tree that was least afraid of being burned by her light. Ma Chenye looked at Yi Qianxian, who held Luo Qingtang, and left as soon as she finished the inscription, and felt an indescribable sense of loss and sadness in his heart. It was night. The moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. The sky was clear. Large black clouds floated above the black night sky. Even though it was a pure black night sky, it still gave off a sense of clarity and solitude. The sounds of insects and birds were very clear in the quiet holy capital. The moon secretly showed its side face in the corner of the clouds, and a few stars were faintly discernible around it. Luo Qingtang stood in the middle of the main courtyard of the Crown Prince's mansion, and Ma Chenye and Mo Chenxian stood on both sides of her. The two of them faced each other from a distance, and they were extremely far away from each other. There was also an extremely complicated defensive formation engraved on the ground beneath their feet. Luo Qingtang narrowed her eyes and waited. Just then, buzz. There seemed to be a faint trembling sound in the air. Luo Qingtang suddenly opened her eyes and looked in the direction of Mo Chenxian. The latter's body was trembling violently. The skill of seizing luck in his body began to operate wildly. Someone was using the mind to control the skill of seizing luck in his body from a distance. The bloody light in Luo Qingtang's eyes flickered, and she stared in the direction of Mo Chenxian without blinking. Suddenly, in the next second, boom! Mo Chenxuan's body suddenly trembled, and a very powerful force suddenly woke up in his body. Roar! In Luo Qingtang's pupil technique, a huge black flood dragon suddenly emerged from Mo Chenxuan's body. The head of the flood dragon was triangular, and it stuck out its tongue and floated above Imo Qinshuan's head. Hiss! In the distance, in the room that Luo Qingtong had specially prepared for them, the Grand Dean, Grand Tutor Jiang, and the others could see this scene through the visible brand carved by the girl. All of them gasped. Oh my God! Imo Qinshian had such a thing hidden in his body. No wonder His Highness the Crown Prince's strength has been stagnant all these years, and has been forced to lay low. The Grand Supreme Dean couldn't restrain the shock and anger in his heart. So this was the reason why His Highness the Crown Prince had been unable to increase his strength all these years, and was said to have reached the limit of his potential. Unable to break through anymore? Imo Qinshian deserved to die. Grand Tutor Jiang and the others were the same. How could they not see that the black dragon in Imo Qinshuan's body had already grown dragon horns and dragon claws? It was only a step away from becoming a dragon. Thinking of Ma Qinyu's silence all these years, how could they not know who was behind all this? But among them, the most hateful one was the heavenly doctor. If not for him, Imo Qinshian wouldn't have had the chance to absorb the power of fate and bloodline in Ma Qinyu's body. Not to mention that he even wanted to control the Holy Emperor. Just when everyone was shocked. Chapter 1148. Its long and thick body was more than 100 feet long. The snake's head was ferocious, and when it crawled, it was indescribably ferocious and terrifying. The group of people watched it crawl out of Imo Qinshuan's body in an S shape. Its two huge eyes were as big as copper bells. In this dark night, its eyes were shining with coldness. Your Highness! Previously, no one knew why Luo Qingtong wanted Imo Qinshian to be so far away from Ma Qinyi. Now when they saw the black dragon of luck crawling out of Imo Qinshuan's body, they knew why Luo Qingtong did this. The huge black dragon slithered towards Imo Qinyi, spitting out its forked tongue. The Grand Principal and the others in the room couldn't help but exclaim. Ma Qinyi was also shocked by the scene in front of him. He had the power of the real dragon bloodline, so he could naturally see the image of the black dragon in Imo Qinshuan's body. It turned out that this black dragon had been staying in Imo Qinshuan's body and absorbing his real dragon luck. Just as Ma Qinyi was thinking about this, with a buzz, a dragon shape suddenly appeared in his body. Roar! The dragon head was held high, and the dragon whiskers were flying. Above Ma Qinyi's head, an azure dragon suddenly appeared. Real dragon luck. Under the stimulation of the black dragon in Imo Qinshuan's body, and the skill of seizing luck, the real dragon luck in Ma Qinyi's body also suddenly appeared and floated outside. Roar! Roar! The black dragon and the black dragon both raised their heads and stared at each other covetously. The crown prince of the Empire of Qin. Great Yong Sacred Dynasty, Princess Royal's residence. Feng Wuan sat cross-legged in her bedroom, using her mind to control the skill of seizing luck in Imo Qinshuan's body. At this moment, she felt the aura of the real dragon luck in Ma Qinyi's body suddenly emerge. Her eyes suddenly lit up, and a cold and ruthless smile appeared on her lips. Boom! Her hands suddenly formed a seal, and then her whole mind, following the connection with Imo Qinshuan's skill of seizing luck, suddenly rushed into the black dragon. Roar! After Feng Wuan poured his mind into it, the black Jiao dragon's eyes instantly lit up. His eyes, which were as big as copper bells, suddenly lit up like two huge lanterns. In the next second, it fiercely raised its head and opened its mouth wide. Then, it fiercely bit towards the azure dragon that had appeared from Ma Qinyi's body. Compared to the black flood dragon's body, it was much bigger. Ma Qinyi's true dragon providence was only a few feet long, because it had lost too much of its power. Compared to the black flood dragon, it was much smaller. Seeing that the black dragon was about to bite Imo Qinshian was shocked. The Grand Principal, Grand Tutor Jiang, and the others in the room couldn't hold themselves back anymore. Your Highness! The group of people instantly became very anxious. They didn't know why Luo Qingtong hadn't done anything yet. Once the azure dragon was devoured, the real dragon providence in Ma Qinyi's body would be immediately broken. At that time, the fate of the Empire of Qin would be fundamentally shaken. Just as everyone was anxious, Luo Qingtong felt Feng Wuan's mind pouring into the black flood dragon. At the same time, after the black flood dragon had completely left Emo Chinchuan's body, the bloody light in her eyes suddenly lit up. In an instant, the bloody light filled her eyes like a waterfall. Seal. Chapter 1149. As Luo Qingtong suddenly pointed out two streams of energy from her hands. Puff puff. There was a sudden explosion in Emo Chenxian and Ma Chenye's bodies. The two inscription marks drawn on their bodies were instantly activated. Buzz. A seal mark suddenly appeared outside Emo Chenxuan's body. It cut off the connection between the luck seizing technique in his body and Feng Wuan's side. At the same time, roar, 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 roar. For loud roars that ordinary people couldn't hear suddenly resounded. A huge inscription mark pattern suddenly appeared around Ma Chenye's body. The inscription mark within the inscription mark flew out. All of a sudden, the lines were completed, drawing out the images of giant beasts one after another in the air. Screech! The sky was filled with fire rain, and the phoenix spread its wings. The phoenix cried in the sky. Roar! The violent roar, the white tiger leaped, and the king of beasts. Roar! The snake head and tortoise body, the black tortoise stepped on the ground, as firm as a rock. Roar! The dragon head was raised high, the green dragon stretched out its claws, and soared into the clouds. Sacred Beast Luck-Fixing Diagram. The four sacred beasts appeared. Protect the azure dragon. Roar, 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 roar. Four loud roars sounded, and the four sacred beasts suddenly appeared on the left and right sides of the azure dragon. Coincidentally, they surrounded the giant black flood dragon that was biting over in a frenzy. The phoenix spat fire, the white tiger showed its claws, the black tortoise protected, and the green dragon swung its tail. Together with the counterattack of the azure dragon above Ma Chenye's head, they rushed toward the giant black dragon. Rumble! The six giant beasts were suddenly entangled together. They kept rolling and fighting. His mind entered the black dragon, and Feng Wuan, who was controlling its attack, didn't notice at all. He was surrounded in an instant. In an instant, he was bitten by the five giant beasts. Roar! That huge black flood dragon suddenly began to churn in the dark night sky. The invisible shrill roar spread and drifted in all directions. Damn it! Who is it? The moment the black flood dragon was bitten, Feng Wuan knew that his luck-seizing technique had been seen through. Furthermore, according to the characteristics of her luck-seizing technique, he had specially prepared a way to break it. It wanted to completely devour her black flood dragon's luck here. Xiao Chun felt the luck in the black flood dragon continuously flowing into Ma Chenyi. The latter's aura instantly skyrocketed. Martial Spirit Realm. He had just entered the Martial Spirit Realm. Inferior Martial Spirit Realm. Feng Wuan was so angry that his eyes turned red. She was planning to keep this power for herself. No way. He had to go back immediately. Bang bang bang. She suddenly raised her head and swung her tail, using all her strength to control the black flood dragon to return. However, when she controlled the black dragon to rush toward Emo Chenxian, she found that the connection between the latter and herself had been cut off. Not only that, but a sealing mark also appeared outside his body. Bang! The black flood dragon controlled by Feng Wuan was suddenly bounced back by the sealing formation, as if it had hit a steel plate. Then, the four sacred beasts and the azure dragon behind it transformed, and immediately flew up to bite her again. Bastard! Feng Wuan was furious. In the Princess Royal's residence of the Great Yong Sacred Dynasty, Feng Wuan's face was red with anger, and her eyes were red as if they had been dyed. She couldn't understand who had seen through the luck-seizing technique she had set up and protected Ma Chenyi so well that not a drop of water could leak out. He had also calculated that she would seize the power in Emo Chinchuan's body. Now the luck-seizing technique was reversed. If she didn't think of a way, all the things she had done before would be in vain. Chapter 1150. Great Yong's Fate. Power of the True Dragon, heed my command. Go. Feng Wuan's voice boomed. Within Great Yong's holy capital, a loud and proud sound suddenly rang out from the ancestral temple, which seemed to be floating above all the buildings and towering above the clouds. In an instant, an enormous dragon's body suddenly appeared and coiled around the temple. Its head was held high as it let out a long roar. Boom, boom, boom. Countless strands of Great Yong's power of destiny suddenly surged out violently. In an instant, high up in the sky where no one could see, they gathered above Feng Yuan's residence. Boom, boom. With the convergence of Great Yong's fate, Feng Yuan's mind was instantly strengthened. In an instant, the black flood dragon that she controlled suddenly shook its head. Roar. In the blink of an eye, countless golden lights appeared on the black Jiao dragon. A golden dragon instantly appeared above the black flood dragon's head. The blessing of Great Yong's fate. Bang, 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 roar. When the golden dragon appeared, the four sacred beasts surrounding the azure dragon outside Ma Chenye's body instantly let out tragic cries. After a violent explosion, they suddenly shattered and turned into countless spots of light, disappearing into the night sky. What? Seeing this scene, the Grand Principal and the others were all shocked. This is the true dragon of Great Yong's imperial family, the golden dragon of the nation. Grand Tutor Jiang exclaimed when he saw the enormous golden light above the black flood dragon's head. No wonder the evil physician said that the heavenly doctor was related to Great Yong's imperial family. Now it seems that they are indeed related. He knew that Luo Qingtong had asked Ma Chenyi to investigate the heavenly doctor in the direction of Great Yong's imperial family. Now it seemed that the other party's suspicions were completely correct. Unfortunately, before they could investigate the identity of the heavenly doctor, the other party had already made things difficult for them. Great Yong is truly ambitious. Grand Tutor Jiang was furious. Previously, when Great Chu's imperial throne was almost stolen, it was inextricably linked to Great Yong. Are they targeting the Empire of Qin? What a huge ambition! Weren't they afraid that they would die from overeating? The Empire of Qin's sage emperor, and that transcendent saint, who had already fallen asleep in the imperial palace of the Empire of Qin, saw the appearance of Great Yong's golden dragon of fate. Their hearts were suddenly stirred, and they opened their eyes. At the same time, in the imperial ancestral temple of the royal family of the Empire of Qin, roar! Sensing the aura of Great Yong's golden dragon of the nation, the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin's ancestral temple also suddenly appeared. Rumble! The golden dragon of the Yong Empire abruptly circled above the ancestral shrine, its pair of dragon eyes glaring angrily at the golden dragon of Great Yong, who had dared to appear in its territory, and even dared to attack the true dragon descendant of the imperial family of the Empire of Qin, which it sheltered. In a flash, the golden dragon of Great Yong let out a furious roar. Its entire body shot up and flew towards the golden dragon of Great Yong that had appeared in the crown prince's residence. Kill it! Ignoring the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin that was flying towards him, Feng Yuan's gaze was fixed on Ma Chenyi. In other words, he was staring at the image of the azure dragon that Ma Chenyi had revealed. Once the power of Great Yong's golden dragon of fate was used, it would cause the power of the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin to tremble. Feng Yuan had already prepared for this. Chapter 1151. It would take some time for her opponent to get here. This little bit of time was enough for her to control the black flood dragon, to devour the power of the azure dragon outside Ma Chenye's body. At that time, the Empire of Qin's crown prince's true dragon luck would be cut off, and the power of the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin would be shaken and depleted. At that time, it would be enough for her to retreat. No one would be able to stop her from devouring Ma Chenye's true dragon luck. As Feng Yuan thought of this, he controlled the black flood dragon, which had shrunk in size and was riddled with scars. It suddenly raised its head and bit at the azure dragon outside Ma Chenye's body. Its eyes were ferocious and vicious, unlike an ordinary person. Roar! As the black flood dragon, and the power of the golden dragon of Great Yong's national luck above its head violently rushed over. Suddenly, a series of explosions sounded around Ma Chenye's body. Under his feet, lines and lines of formations rose up. They formed layers and layers of protection around his body. However, the power of the national luck that Great Yong had accumulated over the years was too strong. Under such circumstances, those defensive formations could not stop the black flood dragon and the golden dragon of Great Yong's national luck. Bang bang bang. The black flood dragon controlled by Feng Wuan's mind was completely crushed. It directly shattered the protection around Ma Chunyi. Its head was raised high, and its bloody mouth suddenly opened, biting at the azure dragon outside Ma Chunyi's body. Your Highness the Crown Prince, the Grand Principal, Grand Tutor Jiang, and the others in the room could not help but break through the wall and rush out. However, after rushing out of the room, they could not see the black flood dragon and the azure dragon in an instant. The power of the national luck was in harmony with the heavenly Tao. It was not something that ordinary people could see. Experts above the Saint Realm would not be able to see it without special abilities. Just as the Grand Supreme Dean and the others were panicking, Beiqing and Windfeather exchanged glances under the eaves not far away. They then looked at their High Lord with worry. Master! If the black flood dragon controlled by Feng Wuan devoured the true dragon of Ma Chunyi's body, the evil physician would not feel good. Moreover, if the other party broke the evil physician's trap, would the evil physician be injured? Master would probably take action, right? Under the eaves, Yi Qianren stood with his hands behind his back. Dressed in a black robe, he seemed to have completely blended into the night. The man's gaze was deep. The dark gold mask on his face flickered with a cold light under the moonlight. Yi Qianren stared at Luo Qingtong, who was standing in the middle of the courtyard. Her gaze never left the young girl. Good. Luo Qingtong remained silent and did not move when she saw the black flood dragon, accompanied by the power of the golden dragon of Great Yong, biting the azure dragon outside Ma Chunyi's body. It was not until the black flood dragon and the power of the golden dragon of Great Yong approached the azure dragon inside Ma Chunyi's body that she suddenly moved. Boom! The young girl's figure flew up. In an instant her red clothes fluttered like fire. Chapter 1152. It was like a beautiful phoenix in the ninth heaven, and also like the red lotus fire rising from the boundless purgatory. It was as if it wanted to burn everything and destroy the heavens. 8-directional dragon lock formation. Rise! Luo Qingtong's figure flew up. The entire holy capital of the Empire of Qin was suddenly filled with the sound of rattling chains. 1 chain, 2 chains, 3 chains, 8 chains. With the Crown Prince's residence as the center, 8 extremely thick chains suddenly appeared from the void. Buzz! In the 8 directions of the holy capital of the Empire of Qin, the runes of the formation suddenly appeared on the largest building. Luo Qingtong had originally drawn it as a precaution. She did not expect Feng Wuan's ambition to be so great that he actually used so much of Great Yong's accumulated national fortune. However, since he had used it, then he would never return. All of them would stay. Boom! When the 8-directional dragon locking formation rose, the black flood dragon and the power of Great Yong's golden dragon appeared above its head, shockingly appearing at the heart of the formation. It turned out that the place where Ma Chunyi was located was the center of the 8-directional dragon lock formation. Luo Qingtong allowed them to completely enter before activating the 8-directional dragon lock formation. Rumble! Swish! As the chains stretched out from the void, they wrapped around the golden dragon of Great Yong's golden dragon of Qin. At the same time, the azure dragon outside Ma Chunyi's body suddenly raised its head and swung its tail, biting toward the black flood dragon. Without the support of the golden dragon of Great Yong's golden dragon of Qin, the black flood dragon, whose power had been devoured, was no match for the true dragon's fortune in Ma Chunyi's body. It was bitten fiercely, and the power of fortune that originally belonged to Ma Chunyi continuously flowed back. The aura in Ma Chunyi's body skyrocketed, and the azure dragon outside his body grew larger and larger. The black flood dragon's body, however, was shrinking rapidly. However, Feng Wuan did not care about this. Imperial Ancestral Dragon Qi. Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets as she watched the power of Great Yong's golden dragon being restrained. The latter raised its head and swung its tail, struggling with all its might. However, no matter how hard it tried, it could not break free from the shackles of those chains. The dragon locking formation that Luo Qingtong had drawn was powered by the power of the entire holy capital of the Empire of Qin. Dragon luck as the suppression. How could the power of Great Yong's golden dragon break free? Under Feng Wuan's shocked gaze, the Empire of Qin's azure dragon power, which had risen from the imperial ancestral temple of the Empire of Qin, arrived. Roar! It fiercely raised its head and bit down on the golden dragon form of Great Yong's fate. In an instant, the power of the golden dragon of Great Yong let out a mournful cry as the power of the nation within its body was continuously absorbed. Not good. In the holy capital of Great Yong, ever since Feng Wuan had used the power of the imperial ancestral temple, the saint transcendence of Great Yong had been paying close attention to the situation in the imperial ancestral temple. This time, when the power of the golden dragon of Great Yong was being devoured, his heart suddenly palpitated violently. In the next second, he suddenly heard a mournful cry that ordinary people could not hear coming from the imperial ancestral temple. Something had happened to Great Yong's power of fortune. Moreover, it was a major matter. The transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty was both anxious and angry. His figure flashed, and he instantly appeared above the imperial ancestral temple of the holy capital of Great Yong. Boom! Chapter 1153. Stop! As his voice rang out, Yi Zichen's voice sounded. In an instant, his mental power appeared above the golden dragon formed by Great Yong's national fate. It turned into a huge palm and blasted towards the chains formed by the eight-sided dragon lock formation that bound the golden dragon. With the appearance of the huge palm, the supreme saint of the Empire of Qin sacred dynasty snorted heavily. Great Yong's national fate suddenly appeared in the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. Thinking of how the Empire of Qin's sacred emperor was bewitched, and how the heavenly doctor was related to Great Yong's royal family, how could the supreme saint of the Empire of Qin sacred dynasty not know that Great Yong's royal family was up to something again? Although he didn't know that Ma Qianye's true dragon fate had been stolen, since Great Yong's national fate appeared in the holy capital of the Empire of Qin and was captured by the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin's national fate. Therefore, there was no reason to let Great Yong go. Since Great Yong had delivered himself to their doorstep, they should stay here forever. On this point, the supreme saint of the Empire of Qin sacred dynasty and Luo Qingtong's thoughts were exactly the same. However, Luo Qingtong did it casually in order to make things difficult for Feng Wuan. On the other hand, the supreme saint of the Empire of Qin sacred dynasty did it for the benefit of the Empire of Qin's royal family. Boom! The supreme saint of the Empire of Qin sacred dynasty rose up in an instant. At the same time, he blasted his palm towards the huge palm that blasted towards the eight-sided dragon lock formation, blocking the mental power of the supreme saint of Great Yong. Rumble! The two's powers collided. The mental strength of the saint transcendent from Great Yong was supported by the destiny of Great Yong, while the saint transcendent from the Empire of Qin was also supported by the destiny of the Empire of Qin. In an instant the two were evenly matched. However, that saint transcendent from Great Yong wasn't physically present. It was impossible for him to contend against this saint transcendent from the Empire of Qin just by relying on the power of his mind. In an instant, after a series of earth-shaking tremors, the palm formed from the mental strength of the transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty was blasted back. As for Great Yong's golden dragon of destiny, its cries grew louder and louder as it was devoured by the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin. The power of providence was being lost more and more. The fate of my Great Yong. That transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty sensed this scene through his mind, and his eyes almost popped out of his head. At this moment, Feng Wuan's voice rang in his ears. Great-grandfather, there's definitely someone controlling that formation. Find her and kill her. There won't be a problem. There's no need to go head-to-head with that saint transcendent from the Empire of Qin. At this moment, Feng Wuan was controlling the black flood dragon, but it was unable to struggle. It was bitten by the azure dragon outside Ma Qianye's body and was constantly being devoured. However, she could give up on the power of providence absorbed by Mo Chen, but nothing could happen to Great Yong's power of providence. Otherwise, Thinking of this, Great Yong's power of providence was trapped here because of her. If it was really absorbed by the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin, then, after returning, what awaited her would be the thunderous fury of that saint transcendent from Great Yong's royal family. Thinking of this, even though Feng Yuan had many tricks up his sleeve, he couldn't help but shudder. Chapter 1154. This was also because that transcendent saint's mental strength was extraordinary. He could communicate with the heaven and earth spiritual qi, so he could find Luo Qingtong's location so quickly. Looking at the young girl who was flying through the air, her sleeves and skirt fluttering in the wind, her figure and face half covered, a vicious expression suddenly appeared on the face of the transcendent saint from the Great Yong dynasty. Then, the large palm formed from his mental power viciously grabbed towards Luo Qingtong. Kill this woman, and the formation that binds Great Yong's fate will be removed. When the time comes, I will be able to receive the golden dragon formed by Great Yong's fate back. As the transcendent saint from the Great Yong dynasty thought about it, a ferocious glint appeared in his eyes. Rumble! That huge palm instantly blasted towards Luo Qingtong with the force of 1,000 caddies. He would not give that transcendent saint from the Empire of Qin dynasty a chance to save him. However, to the surprise of that transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty, that transcendent saint from the Great Qin sacred dynasty saw his actions and only glanced in his direction before looking away. He actually ignored it completely. What was going on? The transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty was shocked. Was the other party not afraid that he would kill this young girl? As long as he could kill the other party, the crisis of Great Yong's golden dragon of destiny would be resolved. How could that transcendent saint from the Empire of Qin not see this? While the saint transcendent from Great Yong was astonished, the saint transcendent from the Empire of Qin sneered in his heart. He shot a glance at a certain black figure, standing under the eaves of a nearby building, and immediately shook his head at that transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty who was courting death. The other party was too stupid. The Blackfield Underworld Venerable would not care about him if he only fought with him. But now, he was attacking Luo Qingtong. I'll just watch him get into trouble. Sure enough, just as the transcendent saint from the Empire of Qin dynasty thought that, Yi Qianxian's figure flashed under the eaves. In an instant, the man's black figure appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. The young girl's eyes were tightly shut, and her spiritual power was spreading out. No one knew what she was doing. Yi Qianxian glanced at her, and stood in front of her with his hands behind his back. Bang! With one hand behind his back, he suddenly waved his other hand. In an instant, the weather changed and the world shook. Yi Qianxian's palm met the palm of the transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty. In an instant, the huge palm that seemed to be formed from the power of thought that spanned across the heavens and earth disappeared like smoke in thin air. Ah! That transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream, as his mental strength was completely destroyed. Not only that, but an extremely vast and majestic force also violently blasted through the connection between his spiritual power and his body. Bang! In the palace of the Great Yong sacred dynasty, the supreme saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty, who was sitting upright, was sent flying and smashed into the pillar behind him. After breaking 2 pillars, he heavily slammed into the wall behind him. Boom! The entire hall was shaken by this. At the same time, the transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. Blackfield Underworld Venerable. He was both shocked and horrified. Chapter 1155. Why would the other party suddenly appear in the Empire of Qin's territory? And why would he suddenly attack me? Wasn't the Blackfield's Ming Zun someone who didn't care about external affairs? As long as you didn't provoke him, he wouldn't do anything. Moreover, the other party's strength seemed to be even stronger than before. Just as the saint from the Great Yong dynasty was in shock, in the sky above the crown prince's residence in the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, after Yi Qianxian repelled the saint from Great Yong, he didn't stop. His eyes were cold as he looked at the struggling golden dragon of Yong, in the 8-directional dragon lock formation. He raised his hand and waved. Bang! Roar! The golden dragon of Great Yong instantly raised its head and let out a shrill cry. Under Yi Qianxian's wave, its body instantly shattered and turned into countless strands of fate energy, which were absorbed by the azure dragon of the Empire of Qin. Thank you, Mingzun. Seeing this scene, the saint from the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was overjoyed. Yi Qianxian's move instantly saved him a lot of effort. Otherwise, the golden dragon of Yong would probably have to hold on for a long time. At that time, who knew what kind of method Great Yong would come up with to save the golden dragon of Yong? At this moment, all of the golden dragon of Yong's fate energy belonged to the Empire of Qin. Just say that the saint from Great Yong was courting death. Now, he had completely lost the golden dragon of Yong's empire. The saint from the Empire of Qin was extremely grateful to the saint from Great Yong for that palm strike on Luo Qingtong. The evils he brought on himself were the hardest to bear. As the golden dragon of Yong was wailing and shattering, the ancestral temple in Great Yong's sacred capital trembled violently. Rumble! It trembled violently as if it was wailing. Then, with a series of cracking sounds, countless cracks appeared. In the next second, more than half of it collapsed. Ah! My Great Yong's fate energy! Seeing this scene, the saint from Great Yong's sacred dynasty, who had just crawled up from the ground, was furious. The golden dragon of Yong's fate energy, that had been accumulated for so many years, was actually all absorbed overnight. The ancestral temple collapsed. The Great Yong's royal family had suffered great losses this time. All of the royal family's descendants lose at least 20% of their strength. How could the saint from Great Yong's heart not feel? He roared angrily, then slammed the ground heavily. His figure quickly leaped up and headed towards Feng Yuan's princess royal residence. Feng Yuan Yong, the transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty, looked extremely furious. He hated himself for believing the other party. Yong 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 Bi Yong Yong Yong. Yong Yong Yong's Yong 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 die. Meanwhile, in Great Yong's sacred capital's royal residence, when Feng Yuan's golden dragon of Yong's golden dragon of Yong was shattered, the black flood dragon that she was controlling could no longer resist the bite of the azure dragon, formed by the true dragon's fate energy in Ma Qianye's body. In an instant it was torn into pieces. Her mind was severely injured. In an instant, she returned to her body and rolled off the bed. How can this be? How can this be? Feng Yuan was shocked. She did not know how she had lost. Why was she still defeated even after using the golden dragon of Yong's golden dragon of Yong? Who was it? Chapter 1156. Feng Yuan's mental strength was not as strong as that of Great Yong's transcendent saint. She could not show herself and could not see the scene in the Xingdu of the Empire of Qin. She could only rely on her breath to sense. Therefore, she did not know that it was Luo Qingtong who had ruined her plan. At this moment a light, charming, androgynous voice suddenly sounded in her mind. Caught him. In the Shengdu of the Empire of Qin, in the Crown Prince's residence, Luo Qingtong's figure was suspended in mid-air. The dragon-locking formation of 8 directions had not completely disappeared and was surrounding her. All of a sudden, the girl's tightly shut eyes opened. In an instant, the scene in Princess Feng Yuan's residence in the Shengdu of Great Yong appeared in Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes. Feng Yuan's pale face and disbelief were also reflected in her eyes. Luo Qingtong had just closed her eyes to search for the exact location of Feng Yuan's body. The latter was too confident. She had tampered with the art of seizing fate in Ma Qianye's body. She wanted to use him to absorb all the true dragon's fate in Ma Qianye's body before killing him and absorbing his strength. At this moment, Luo Qingtong happened to find Feng Yuan's body through that trace of connection. Not only that, she also had a big gift to give to the other party. Evil Dr. Ghost Eyes. Suddenly hearing the voice in his mind, Feng Yuan was shocked, and then he immediately came back to his senses. She could recognize the other party's voice even if it turned into ashes. So all of this was your doing? Feng Yuan could not help but gnash her teeth. Why was it her again? Last time in the Shengdu of Great Chu, it was her who ruined her plan. This time it was her again. This be asterisk tch. Not only did she occupy Ming Zun, she also ruined her plan time and time again. If Luo Qingtong was here, Feng Wuan really wanted to eat her alive. That's where you're wrong, Luo Qingtong said in a melodious voice. Shouldn't I be the one saying that? Celestial Sage Hand, you first coveted Great Chu, then spied on the empire of Qin. You're quite ambitious. Shouldn't you be the one playing tricks in the dark? Luo Qingtong deliberately did not reveal Feng Wuan's identity. Let the other party think that she had hidden it very well. He would have plenty of chances to play with her slowly in the future. Humph. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Feng Wuan snorted and said coldly, So what if it's me? Evil Dr. Gui Tong. I've lost to you again this time. But I won't keep losing. I forgot to tell you. I'm already at the peak of the martial spirit realm, close to the saint realm. He would be able to break through to the saint realm very soon. What about you? As she spoke, although her face was pale, she sneered loudly. Evil Dr. Gui Tong. You'd better pray that you don't fall into my hands alone. Otherwise, so what if you have 1,000 tricks? Just based on strength, I can completely crush you. Feng Wuan used his own fierce roar to hide the fact that he was in a sorry state, and was inferior to Luo Qingtong. The other party's strength was not as good as hers, but he could beat her again and again. When the other party's strength caught up, what advantage would she have in front of the other party? Feng Wuan was well aware of this, but he was not willing to show weakness in front of Luo Qingtong. She would not lose. As long as her current strength was stronger than evil Dr. Gui Tong, she still had a chance to turn things around. Yes, your strength is stronger than mine. Luo Qingtong chuckled in her mind. Chapter 1157. Feng Wuan's mind was slightly damaged. If Luo Qingtong hadn't released the restriction outside Mo Qinshuan's body, how could she come back safely? She would definitely be like that transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty. Her mind would be completely destroyed, and she would be seriously injured. And now, although Feng Yuan's mind power was damaged, his main body didn't receive any damage. It was completely because Luo Qingtong deliberately let her come back. As for why she did this, Luo Qingtong's lips suddenly curved into a smile. That smile was both evil and seductive. It was full of evil and domineering. Of course, I want you to have a taste of your strength being taken away. Thank you for what you did in Mo Qinshuan's body. You saved me a lot of trouble. When Luo Qingtong said this, the look in her eyes suddenly changed and became very cold. Reverse. She raised her hand and pointed out. Long before, the skill of seizing fate in Mo Qinshuan's body had been completely analyzed by her. Even where Feng Wuan's trick was, and how to reverse the power of seizing fate, Luo Qingtong had deduced it. When this finger was pointed out, in an instant, the aura in Feng Wuan's body was suffocated, and then quickly reversed and flowed, surging wildly along a connection in the dark. Impossible. Feng Wuan guessed what Luo Qingtong was going to do at the moment when she asked. But her heart was full of disbelief. Mo Chunxian was already dead when she activated the skill of seizing fate in his body. How was it possible for Luo Qingtong to reverse his actions and absorb his strength when his aura was cut off? Wait! She sensed for a moment and suddenly screamed. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. You actually established the connection of the skill of seizing fate in your body. His strength had been absorbed by her. This bitch. Yes. Luo Qingtong's voice was slow for a while. I have seen through your skill of seizing fate. Is it difficult to draw a picture according to the gourd? The only difficult thing is to transfer your connection. But when I just found you, I had already succeeded. Luo Qingtong had closed her eyes after activating the 8-sided dragon lock spell because of this. But now she had succeeded. Boom boom boom. With Luo Qingtong's voice and Feng Wuan's resentment, Feng Wuan's strength was constantly absorbed. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye, you bitch. He felt that his strength was constantly declining. On the other end, Luo Qingtong's strength was constantly increasing. Feng Yuan was so angry that she was trembling all over. The arrangement that he had made to absorb Mo Qinshuan's strength actually helped his opponent in the end. Luo Qingtong absorbed his strength. If Feng Wuan's psychological quality was a little worse, he would have vomited blood and fainted on the spot. While Feng Wuan's strength was constantly declining, on the other side, in the sky above the crown prince's mansion of the Empire of Qin, Luo Qingtong's aura was constantly rising. Qingtong, after absorbing the strength of Mo Chenxian, Ma Qingye's strength had risen to the peak of the martial spirit realm and touched the existence of the sage realm faintly. The strength that had been dormant all these years had all been replenished. He even had a chance to win. For a moment, he could not hide his excitement and wanted to come up to Luo Qingtong to thank her. Chapter 1158. Boom! Yi Qianxian raised his hand, and an air wall instantly surrounded Luo Qingtong. She's improving. The man's voice was cold. The Grand Supreme Dean and the others rushed over and saw some clues. Your Highness, don't go over there. The evil doctor should be dealing with the heavenly doctor. The Grand Supreme Dean and the others could not see where Luo Qingtong's sudden improvement in strength came from. But when they thought of the heavenly doctor hiding behind Mo Chenxian and coveting the Empire of Qin, they could guess that the other party must have done something to Mo Chenxian. But now, she was caught by the evil doctor and was absorbing her strength. The group of people thought so, and immediately retreated to a place not far away. They looked over here without blinking, so as not to disturb Luo Qingtong. Bang bang bang. The aura around Luo Qingtong's body was constantly improving. Low-level Martial Emperor Realm, middle-level Martial Emperor Realm, high-level Martial Emperor Realm. The strength that Feng Wuan had improved from the experience in the secret realm was all for her. Feng Wuan's eyes were red from the absorption. She was about to break through to the Saint Realm, but under Luo Qingtong's absorption, she continued to lose strength. Master! Finally, seeing that the strength in her body had fallen from the peak martial spirit realm to the high-level martial spirit realm, Feng Wuan finally could not bear it. She used her mind to call out the wisp of green smoke that had returned to her body after sending her back. When the latter woke up and saw this scene, he was shocked. What's going on? The wisp of green smoke said angrily. Then, it suddenly attacked and stopped Luo Qingtong from continuing to absorb the strength in Feng Wuan's body. In the Crown Prince's mansion of the sacred dynasty of the Empire of Qin, blood flowed in Luo Qingtong's eyes. The appearance of that wisp of green smoke was accurately reflected in her eyes. There was such an existence in Feng Wuan's body? Luo Qingtong looked at the wisp of green smoke, and her lips suddenly curled up slightly. At this moment, she sensed that outside Princess Feng Wuan's mansion, an extremely violent and terrible force was flying towards here. It's that transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty. Luo Qingtong sensed the aura and laughed. Thinking of Feng Wuan's loss in the Empire of Qin dynasty, the smile on Luo Qingtong's lips became even more evil and leisurely. She allowed the power of the green smoke to cut off the connection between her and Feng Yuan. Luo Qingtong retracted her consciousness and sensed the power in her body. She nodded with satisfaction. Martial Emperor Peak. To be able to raise my strength by so many levels in one night, I really have to thank the first princess of Great Yong for her contribution. Luo Qingtong's eyes were full of smiles. Her blood-red eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. Her appearance was both demonic and pure. Her strength had reached the peak martial emperor realm, which was the limit. After all, the breakthrough between small realms was just a gradual increase in quantity. It was fine as long as she had enough strength. But the breakthrough of a big realm was completely different. In addition to having enough strength, one also needed to have enough comprehension and opportunity to break through the barrier and advance to the next realm. Luo Qingtong. Thanks to Feng Wuan's contribution, Luo Qingtong was able to increase her strength by so many levels. In fact, Feng Wuan was so angry that he vomited blood. Chapter 1159. She had suffered a lot in that secret realm, and managed to raise her strength to a level that was only a step away from the sage realm. She thought that after absorbing Mo Chenxian's strength, she would be able to break through to the sage realm. But now, not to mention breaking through to the sage realm, her strength had fallen to the high-level martial spirit realm. The strength that she had painstakingly accumulated was all given to Luo Qingtong. And all of this was her own fault. She wanted to absorb Emo Qinshuan's strength, but Luo Qingtong took advantage of this weakness and absorbed her strength. Thinking of this, Feng Wuan was mad with anger. Puff! She raised her head and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then she screamed loudly and tore her hair desperately. Just when she was hysterical and could not control herself. Bang! The door to her room was kicked open by someone. The transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty rushed in from outside with bloodshot eyes. He looked angrily at Feng Wuan, who was lying on the ground in a sorry state, and waved his sleeve fiercely. Feng Wuan! In the next second, a slap landed on Feng Wuan's face. In an instant Feng Wuan was sent flying. Bang! Feng Wuan's body hit the wall of her bedroom heavily, and then smashed through the wall and flew out. Bastard! I must have been possessed by a ghost to listen to you. Do you know how much our Great Yong royal family has suffered this time? Without the protection of the country's fate accumulated over so many years, our Great Yong sacred dynasty has become the weakest among the 4 dynasties. Not only that, the power of the royal bloodline has decreased by more than 20%. Feng Wuan, you deserve to die. The transcendent saint from the Great Yong sacred dynasty looked at Feng Yuan, as if he wanted to eat her alive. After suffering such a great loss, he would almost become the sinner of the entire Great Yong royal family. And all of this was because of Feng Wuan. The transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty could not hold back his anger as he spoke, and he rushed forward again. Seeing that the other party had lost his mind, the wisp of green smoke in Feng Wuan's body could no longer sit still. It suddenly appeared, and with a flash of Feng Wuan's body, they disappeared from the room. How dare you run? The transcendent saint of the Great Yong royal family was furious. A strong gust of wind gushed out violently, and with a boom, the sleeping chamber was smashed into pieces. Then his body suddenly, and his voice spread throughout the entire Great Yong sacred capital. Pass down my order. From today onwards, strip Feng Yuan of her princess status and all her privileges. Send men to arrest Wan Yong sacred dynasty. Bring her Yong that Feng Yong saint of the transcendent saint of the great transcendent saint of the Great Yong royal great saint of the Great Yong saint of the Great Yong saint transcendent of the Feng saint of the Feng Wuan. That bastard had almost harmed the entire Great Yong royal family. Thinking that they had not only lost the power of the country's fate that Great Yong had accumulated over the years, but also had to face the questioning of the Empire of Qin. Why had their power of the country's fate appeared in the sacred capital of the Empire of Qin, and even attacked the crown prince of the Empire of Qin? The veins on the forehead of the transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty throbbed. He must bring Feng Wuan back. That would be the end of this matter. Otherwise, he would not be able to answer to the Empire of Qin. Having his power of the country's fate devoured, and having to lower his head to the other party, the transcendent saint of the Great Yong sacred dynasty felt that he had never been so aggrieved before. And all of this was caused by that traitorous grandson of Feng Wuan. Chapter 1160. At the same time, the wisp of smoke took Feng Wuan away from the capital of Great Yong, and stopped in the wilderness far away from the capital. Then, it asked Feng Wuan angrily, "What did you do when I was asleep? How did things turn out like this?" The wisp of smoke sounded really angry. How long had it been since she fell asleep? Feng Wuan had become like this. That transcendent saint from the Great Yong dynasty clearly wanted to beat her to death. What had she done to anger him to this extent? He even gave the order to strip her of her status as a princess, and put her on the wanted list. From being a princess above all others, she had become like this. Was Feng Wuan crazy? I didn't do anything. I just wanted to follow the original plan and take control of the Empire of Qin. It's that evil Dr. Gui Tong. It's him. He caused me to become like this. Half of Feng Wuan's face was swollen at this moment. She had just been slapped by that transcendent saint of the Great Yong dynasty, and she had almost lost all her teeth. At this moment, her graceful, luxurious, and complacent temperament was completely gone, leaving only a hysterical breakdown. Feng Yuan didn't know how she ended up like this. She had also heard the orders of that transcendent saint from Great Yong. If it weren't for that evil Dr. Gui Tong, she definitely wouldn't have ended up like this today. The empire of Qin's royal family should have long been in her hands. Ma Chenye's true dragon's fate was broken, and Mo Chunxian would definitely die. At this time, she should have become the most powerful person in the Great Yong dynasty, second only to the emperor. However, the truth was the opposite. Her chance to return to glory was all ruined by evil Dr. Gui Tong. Not only that, she had also become a wanted person in the entire Great Yong dynasty. From a princess to a wanted criminal, not to mention the wisp of smoke, even she couldn't accept it. She still hadn't completely broken down, which was already considered a strong psychological quality. That evil Dr. Gui Tong is really difficult to deal with. After listening to Feng Yuan's story, the wisp of smoke's face turned serious. He had once told Feng Yuan not to take her seriously. Now, it seemed that the speed of evil Dr. Gui Tong's improvement was too shocking. If this continued, Feng Yuan would definitely not be her opponent. Go to the western wilderness. After thinking for a moment, the wisp of smoke made a decision. He said, the Yong dynasty, the Great Yong dynasty, the Great Yong dynasty, the empire, the Great Yong dynasty. That transcendent saint from the Great Yong dynasty will not let you off. And if the royal family of the Great Qin sacred dynasty were to find out about your identity as the celestial doctor, they would never let you off. You have to regain the Great Yong dynasty. Before Yong started, the Great Yong, Yaiyang Yong. Go to the western wilderness. I have a way to let you directly break through to the Saint Realm. When you return to the Great Yong dynasty as a Saint Realm expert, the Great Yong dynasty's transcendent Saint Realm expert will forgive you no matter how big your mistake was. At that time, as a Saint Realm expert, you will also be able to shine in that Great Yong dynasty's transcendent Saint Realm expert. At that time, that evil Dr. Gui Tong won't be your opponent. All right, Feng Yuan nodded fiercely. She had really lost too miserably this time. Chapter 1161. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye, didn't you rely on various methods to absorb my strength? When I become a saint, I want to see what use your methods are. I will definitely crush you. Great Yong, I will definitely return. Feng Yuan followed the wisp of green smoke and swept towards the far west wilderness. As for the empire of Qin sacred dynasty, Luo Qingtong felt it was a pity that she couldn't continue to leave her mental strength in the Great Yong sacred dynasty to watch the show. Then she descended. Qingtong. Ma Chenyi and the Grand Supreme Dean ran over. You're really something, kid. The Grand Supreme Dean looked at the abundant aura around Luo Qingtong, and his eyes lit up. With a single glance, it was obvious that this evil doctor child had taken advantage of the heavenly doctor. Thinking of how the evil doctor had attacked Ma Chenyi and almost destroyed the true dragon fate in his body, the Grand Supreme Dean applauded in his heart. Serves them right. They let the evil doctor hide in the dark. They even set their sights on the sacred emperor. Thinking of this, the Grand Supreme Dean suddenly clapped his hands. Right this time, the Great Yong sacred dynasty's golden dragon fate made a move. They definitely can't get away with it. I will immediately ask the sacred emperor to issue an imperial edict to demand an explanation from the Great Yong royal family. Not to mention anything else, how did the heavenly doctor use the true dragon fate of the Great Yong royal family? They must give an explanation, and that heavenly doctor, they must also hand him over. No need. The saint transcendence of the empire of Qin sacred dynasty strode forward at this time. I have already asked the sacred emperor to issue an imperial edict. This time, the Great Yong sacred dynasty must give an explanation. The Great Chu sacred dynasty can also participate. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't say that Feng Yuan was the heavenly doctor. She would let the Great Yong royal family make things difficult for him. At that time, Feng Yuan would naturally suffer. And didn't Feng Yuan like acting? She gave him this opportunity. The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips was clear. Wouldn't it be boring if the answer was revealed so quickly? Let the imperial family of the Empire of Qin and the imperial family of Great Chu forced the imperial family of Great Yong. Luo Qingtong was very happy to see Feng Wuan struggle. However, it was unlikely that he would be able to see the other party suffer. Luo Qingtong thought of the wisp of green smoke she saw in Feng Wuan's body. Things were really interesting. She liked challenging things. Good. If Great Chu is willing to join forces, that would be even better. The moment Luo Qingtong's words left her mouth, everyone immediately recalled Luo Qingtong's other identity, Great Chu's Princess Sheng Ning. If the Great Chu was willing to join forces, then the pressure on Great Yong would be even greater. As for Blackfield, everyone ignored Yi Qianren, who was at the side. This kind of small matter didn't require Blackfield's help. Moreover, Luo Qingtong didn't intend to completely expose her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, so there was no need to use Blackfield's power. Luo Qingtong also thought so. Why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? Moreover, if she guessed correctly, Feng Wuan should have left Great Yong under the protection of that wisp of green smoke. If they couldn't deal with the main character, why would they need Blackfield's help? The group didn't stay in the Crown Prince's residence for too long and dispersed. Luo Qingtong still needed to consolidate her strength. After a tiring night, she was also tired. She lazily leaned on Yi Qianxian. Chapter 1162. Luo Qingtong yawned as she was put on the bed by Yi Qianxian. The man held her wrist and sent his aura into her body to check. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong's eyes curved. She knew that Yi Qianxian was worried that she suddenly increased so much power, and that there would be problems with her cultivation. However, Luo Qingtong knew the source of the power, so she naturally knew that there was nothing wrong. Feng Wuan did those things to Mo Qinshuan's body in order to prepare for her to improve her own strength. Luo Qingtong copied it exactly and then reversed it. She used Feng Wuan's method, so there was no problem. That was why Feng Wuan was so angry after she absorbed his power. Thinking of his livid expression at that time, Luo Qingtong couldn't help but chuckle. She helped Feng Wuan to get back some of the debt he owed the original owner of the body. As for the rest, when she met Feng Wuan in the future, she would slowly get it back little by little. Embarrassed, humiliated, and unbearable? Feng Wuan would soon know that this was just the beginning. Luo Qingtong spent 3 days to consolidate the strength in her body. Yi Qianxian checked her body and found that there were no hidden dangers or hidden problems in her body, so he was relieved. In the following time, Luo Qingtong finally had time to interrogate the outer core disciples of Celestial Palace. In the dark prison cell, after the outer core disciples of Celestial Palace were caught by Beiqing and others, they were locked in the dungeon of the Imperial Palace of the Empire of Qin. Up until the moment they were caught, they were still in a daze. They couldn't figure out how Luo Qingtong, who was chased out by Elder Xia, could appear in front of them unscathed. And why did the people of Blackfield suddenly intervene in the affairs of Celestial Palace? Could it be that they, a big sect in the hidden world, couldn't compare to a student of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? Even if the other party was a princess of the Great Chu sacred dynasty, she couldn't compare to Celestial Palace. However, when they learned of Luo Qingtong's identity, they realized how much trouble they had caused. What shocked them even more was what Luo Qingtong asked them. Tell me, how much do you know about the tomb of the saint? Why did Celestial Palace send you out this time? Luo Qingtong hugged the little pig and leaned against the armchair. She looked indifferently at the terrified outer sect disciples of the Celestial Supreme Palace. Squatting on her shoulder was the little golden mouse that was dedicated to acting cute. At this moment, the little mouse was using its little paws and head to rub Luo Qingtong. There was no need to mention how adorable she looked. Looking at the little mouse's actions, the outer core disciples of Celestial Palace didn't know what to say. That was their sect's precious mouse, and it was so affectionate towards Luo Qingtong. What did she do to it? And how did she let it escape from Elder Xia's control? The group of people looked at Luo Qingtong with even more fear. They didn't know how many tricks she had up her sleeve. And now, Luo Qingtong spoke of the tomb of the saint. Looking at the map in the young girl's hand, the group of Celestial Palace's outer sect disciples trembled even more violently. This map had fallen into the hands of Luo Qingtong. It seemed that Elder Xia was really doomed. And Luo Qingtong had also cracked the secret of the map. They looked at each other. Chapter 1163. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She looked at the outer court disciple from Celestial Palace and felt that he was quite smart. He didn't take the opportunity to negotiate with her, but directly said that he would be loyal to her. They were smart enough to know that they would die regardless of whether they spoke or not, so they chose the path that was most likely to lead to their deaths. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. Elder Xia had been executed, so it didn't matter whether she killed these outer court disciples from Celestial Palace or not. Since they were willing to swear allegiance to her, she would leave them alive and give them to Yin Yang. They would be useful. After all, these outer court disciples from Celestial Palace weren't weak. Since they didn't want to die, Luo Qingtong didn't have to kill them. As for betrayal, since Luo Qingtong dared to accept them, she wasn't afraid that they would betray her. They wouldn't have the chance. Okay. Seeing that Luo Qingtong agreed, the group of Celestial Palace outer sect disciples heaved a sigh of relief. They immediately told her what they knew about the Saint Monarch's tomb. We're not particularly clear about these things. We only know that the sect sent us to the Saint Monarch's tomb, because it is said that the secret of the land of the fallen immortals is hidden inside. As for what it is, we don't know. The group of people shook their heads. Land of the fallen immortals? Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She had been suspicious before. With Celestial Palace's status and strength in the hidden world, why would they suddenly send a group of people to find the Saint Monarch's tomb? It had to be known that most of the powerhouses in True Spill Continent had to look up to a Saint Realm powerhouse. But for the hidden world, it should be considered ordinary. After all, Elder Xia, an outer elder, was already a transcendent saint. Yes, land of the fallen immortals. The outer court disciples from Celestial Palace nodded. You people from True Spill Continent may not know, but this happened in the hidden world. It is said that a long time ago, for some unknown reason, many experts from outside the realm suddenly came to the hidden world, and then a great battle broke out. That battlefield is the land of the fallen immortals. It's said that the land of the fallen immortals hides an extremely powerful treasure. Those experts from the other realms are fighting for it. However, no one knows if this is true or not. The sect has received news that the secret of the land of the deceased immortals is hidden in the sacred emperor tomb. That's why they sent us here. As for why he sent a few outer court disciples and an outer court elder, it was naturally to deceive others. After all, the secrets of the treasures in the land of the fallen immortals were extremely tempting. If news of this were to leak out, the entire hidden world would probably respond to it. Celestial Palace was not the strongest sect among them, so they might not be able to get anything. Naturally, they had to be careful and hide it. However, they did not expect that Elder Xia was greedy because of the gold-seeking hamster's reaction to Luo Qingtong. This news and the map were all given to Luo Qingtong. After listening to their words, Luo Qingtong had a thoughtful look on her face. After she made them all swear an oath, she sent them to Yin Yang so that she could make the best use of them. Then Luo Qingtong began to prepare for her trip to the far west wilderness. After she obtained the map of the sacred emperor tomb, she had this plan. After absorbing Feng Luan's strength and reaching the peak of the martial emperor realm, she was even more determined to go. Staying in the Empire of Qin's Sacred Institute was no longer useful for her strength improvement. She might be able to comprehend some breakthroughs by going to the far west wilderness. It was not yet time for that grand event, so Luo Qingtong still had time. Chapter 1164. Yin Yang. Looking at the message in her hand, Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. It was written that she wanted to ask Luo Qingtong a favor in her personal capacity. She wanted to invite Luo Qingtong to come to the Black Field of the Empire of Qin. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She thought of the outer disciples of Celestial Palace that she had sent to the Black Field of the Empire of Qin. Could it be related to this matter? Luo Qingtong always knew that Yin Yang's identity was not ordinary. Ordinary women did not have Yin Yang's charm and temperament, let alone her exquisite skills, that seemed to come from a big family. But Luo Qingtong did not care about this. As long as the other party worked hard for her, it did not matter where they came from, or whether they had any trouble. Since Yin Yang woke up, she had been helping Luo Qingtong to properly manage the power in the black field. She had never let her worry about it. Even the matter of Suyu was the same. Based on this point alone, if she had any request, Luo Qingtong would not disappoint her as long as it was within her power. What's more, Chu Lingfeng, that blockhead, was loyal to her and even sold his life to her. Luo Qingtong came to the black field of the Empire of Qin. Yin Yang was already waiting for her at the mansion. Master. Seeing Luo Qingtong, Yin Yang bowed deeply and saluted to Luo Qingtong. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at her and nodded. Between you and me, there is no need for such a big salute. Yin Yang, if you have something to say, just say it. As long as I can do it, I will do it for you. Luo Qingtong made her promise. Yes. To be able to meet Master is the luckiest thing in Yin Yang's and Sun's lives. Yin Yang looked at Luo Qingtong and bowed deeply again. She knew how important Luo Qingtong's promise to her was. This meant that as long as Luo Qingtong could do it, she would definitely support them, no matter what. Yin Yang's eyes were moist. When she was on the verge of death in the Blackfield city of Eastern Fence Country, she had never thought that she would be reborn one day. Not only that, but he could also live with more dignity. Now, in the entire main city of the Empire of Qin's Blackfield, who wouldn't respectfully call her shopkeeper Yen when they saw her? No one dared to look down on her, just because she was a woman, and her cultivation was not high. It was because of the person standing behind her. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Luo Qingtong gave her and her son a new life, helped her son to improve his strength, and gave her the hope to live on. Now she was willing to support her. Yin Yang felt that even if she died for Luo Qingtong, she would not be able to repay her kindness. She bowed deeply to Luo Qingtong with tears in her eyes, then took a deep breath and said to Luo Qingtong, "Actually, it's not a big deal. This time I specially invited Master to come, just to ask Master. If this time we go to the far west wilderness and coincide with the appearance of the Saint King's tomb, at that time, if the far west wilderness is in turmoil, can you take care of family who in the wilderness city for me?" Yin Yang's eyes were deep, and she bowed again to Luo Qingtong. Family who? Luo Qingtong looked at Yin Yang. The wilderness city was the first city in the far west wilderness. This family who could live in it, so their strength must not be weak. Yes, family who? Yin Yang lowered her head. The tears in her eyes were faintly discernible. That's Yin Yang's family. The current head of the family, Hu Zhongtian, is my father. Chapter 1165. Looking at Luo Qingtong, Yin Yang took a deep breath and said, "Master, if you see family who in trouble, please help him. If not, just forget it. Don't mention my name. Okay?" Luo Qingtong looked at her and nodded. Although she didn't know why Yin Yang, with such a high status, was reduced to a city in the black field of Dongli country and almost died there. But this was her private matter. If she didn't say, Luo Qingtong wouldn't ask more. "I'll remember this," she said. "Thank you, Master." After saying goodbye to Yin Yang, Luo Qingtong returned to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. The Grand Dean was very happy because of the improvement of Ma Chenye's strength. He knew that Luo Qingtong was a lucky girl. As soon as she came to the Saint Academy, his worries were solved. Not only that, those annoying guys from the Elders Association were also gone. How wonderful the world was. However, before he could be happy for long, he heard the news that Luo Qingtong told him. What? His face turned green as he roared angrily. "You want to leave the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin and go to the Western Wilderness?" Even the Grand Principal didn't know how to hide the emaciated look on his face. Damn, this girl was too much. How long had she been in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin? She wanted to run away. Moreover, he had given her more than half a year's leave. Because of this, the whole Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was almost turned upside down. Although it was suppressed by this girl in the end, and the Elders Association were slapped in the face, it was still a violation of the rules of the Saint Academy. Once was enough, but a second time? This girl should leave him a way out. If other students also asked him to do this, what would he say? The Grand Dean's face was as green as a newly picked vegetable leaf. But I don't want to. Luo Qingtong looked at him innocently. She spread out her hands and turned in a circle in front of the Grand Supreme Dean. Look at my current strength. If I stay in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, I won't have any chance to improve in the short term. Logically speaking, I should go out and gain experience. Luo Qingtong blinked her eyes and looked at the Grand Supreme Dean. If I go to the far west wilderness, I might be able to make some progress. I really don't stand a chance in the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. Wait, don't talk about those things in the Sky Hall's training ground. They're completely useless to me. These words were simply heart-wrenching. However, what was even more heart-wrenching was that the Grand Supreme Dean actually couldn't refute it. When Luo Qingtong fought with the members of the Dragon Regiment in the Sky Hall's training ground, he knew that the training there would be of no use to her. The great teacher of the Array Institute had been pestering him for a long time, saying that he wanted Luo Qingtong to be the lead disciple in their institute. None of the students in his institute could catch up to Luo Qingtong's level. The Grand Supreme Dean was pestered by him until he agreed to let Luo Qingtong go to his institute to be the honorary lead disciple of the Array Institute. As for those secret realms, they naturally couldn't be compared to the ones in the far west wilderness. Moreover, the Grand Supreme Dean knew that the group of people from the Celestial Palace was going to the far west wilderness. There must be something going on there. Luo Qingtong must have obtained something good from Elder Xie, so she must go to the far west wilderness. The Grand Supreme Dean thought about it and couldn't find any reason to oppose Luo Qingtong going to the far west wilderness. He was simply heartbroken. The dignified Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was actually disliked to this extent. Chapter 1166. The highest dean looked at Luo Qingtong with resentment. Finally, he nodded and said, "All right, you can go, even if you are going to experience the world in advance. However, you must be there on time for the grand event in 3 months." As the highest dean spoke to hear, his entire face turned solemn. He said in a low voice, "Don't blame this old man for being long-winded. Little baby girl, I know that you have revered deep protecting you. But in this world, there are thousands of good things, tens of thousands of good things, but none of them are as good as yourself. Your ability is extraordinary, far from what the average person can hope to achieve. I am not afraid to say some things that will anger you. If it weren't for revered deep protecting you, then with your alchemy, array formations, and strange branding methods, all the other influences would have already taken action and imprisoned you, turning you into their exclusive property. Even I am not exempt from this. After all, in this world, it is easy to find a strong powerhouse. But for someone like you, with your incredible ability and monstrous talent in all aspects, it is impossible to obtain. You are a giant treasure that has been moved away, a little baby girl who doesn't even know it. Everyone wants to take you for themselves. You must have known your own abilities before. Thus you have always hidden your identity as evil Dr. Ghost's pupil. But hiding your identity will always be revealed one day. If revered deep is careless, and your strength is not strong enough, then what awaits you may be a calamity of complete annihilation. Little baby girl, this grand meeting is related to entering the hidden world. The environment there is greatly beneficial to you. And it is also the path you must take to leave the true Spill continent. You must not miss this opportunity. The highest dean carefully warned. It was clear that his words were truly concerned for Luo Qingtong. He was afraid that after Luo Qingtong went to the far western wilderness, she would accidentally miss this grand meeting. When he had brought Luo Qingtong to the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy, he had the idea of having her bring glory to the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy. But this was also beneficial to Luo Qingtong. Even if he missed this grand meeting, there was still another grand meeting for him to make a comeback. But if Luo Qingtong missed this event, it might be a great loss. After all, The increase in strength didn't wait for anyone, especially someone as talented as Luo Qingtong. If he missed it once, how much improvement would he miss out on? Unknowingly, he had wasted an opportunity. All right, Grand Principal, I understand. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. With her sharp perception of people's hearts, she naturally knew that the Grand Principal's words were not selfish and were completely out of consideration for her. However, so the Grand Principal also had thoughts about me before? Luo Qingtong crossed her arms and looked at the Grand Principal with raised eyebrows. Ha ha! The Grand Supreme Dean laughed dryly. That's human nature. But I'm just saying. I was warned by Ming Zun before I had the chance to do anything to you. Where would I get the chance? He muttered. He had gone to look for her as soon as he had heard of her reputation. But at that time, he was purely curious and wanted to sound her out. If she was good, he would have dug her out. Later, Luo Qingtong's reputation spread that she was an alchemist. He already knew that she was one of Ming Zun's people. So how could he have any ideas about her? Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile, causing him to feel a chill in his heart. Chapter 1167. When Luo Qingtong walked out of the office, the Grand President was on the verge of tears. This evil Dr. Brat still wanted to extort him for the Heavenly Evil Group before leaving the cultivation resources he had accumulated over the years. However, when he recalled that Luo Qingtong had promised him, before she left, that she would heal his internal injuries completely after she returned and her abilities increased, the Grand Supreme Dean felt comforted. Forget it. I'll just treat it as paying the consultation fee in advance. Even if he begged others, they wouldn't be able to cure him. Only this evil Dr. Child had the ability to do so. Right. When you leave, remember to tell me when you go to the Soul Institute to test your innate talent. You brat, you've been here for so long, but you still haven't tested your talent. Although you definitely have it, you should at least test your innate talent. Looking at Luo Qingtong's departing figure, he raised his voice. Got it. Luo Qingtong waved her hand with her back facing him, then left. In the courtyard of the Heavenly Evil Group, Yuanhu, Su Xiaoxiao, Ling Tianhan, and the others were all waiting for Luo Qingtong. Beside them were Ma Chenyi and Yu Qingwei. Boss! Seeing Luo Qingtong return, Yuanhu and the others all gathered around her. Ma Chenyi and Yu Qingwei stood to the side and watched. Qingtong. Ma Chenyi looked at Luo Qingtong and nodded slightly. He didn't have time to thank Luo Qingtong that day, before she was carried away by Yi Qianxian. Today, when he heard that Luo Qingtong was preparing to leave, he specially came to thank her and say goodbye. I'm going to enter the imperial family's secret training grounds to cultivate and consolidate and improve the dragon qi in my body. After being silent for so many years, there are still many areas where the dragon qi in my body hasn't improved. He looked at Luo Qingtong and smiled. We'll meet again at the gathering in 3 months. I hope you'll surprise us like last time when you asked for leave. Haha. Luo Qingtong looked at him and laughed. Okay, you guys wait. Ma Chenyi looked at her deeply, and then left with a smile. The young man's smile was gentle and elegant, and his gaze was calm and reserved. He was becoming more and more domineering and awe-inspiring. He memorized Luo Qingtong's face deeply in his heart. Then, he turned around and left with a smile, not leaving a trace of loneliness in front of others. Some people were destined to be divine phoenixes above the 9 heavens. Ordinary people could not obtain them. He did not wish to be able to obtain Luo Qingtong. He only wished to be able to walk side by side with her in this lifetime. He did not wish to be left behind by her. Then, he would not let down this life and this heart of his. Looking at the young crown prince's back, Yu Qingwei's eyes were filled with sadness. I didn't expect you to be the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. She looked at the gorgeous young woman across from her and chuckled softly. I didn't lose unjustly. A woman who could make the Blackfield's underworld revered fall in love with. No wonder that person would place her in his heart. Yu Qingwei looked at Luo Qingtong with a tearful smile. But even if I lost to you now, that doesn't mean I'll always lose. Luo Qingtong, I'll definitely work hard to catch up to you. I'll be waiting for you at the gathering in 3 months. she would definitely catch up to her and tell that person that she was not worse than the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. He could look at her one more time, even if it was just one more time. All right. Luo Qingtong did not know that Yu Qingwei's words had a deeper meaning. She looked at the elegant young woman in front of her and gently nodded. Yu Qingwei was a rare opponent that she liked. The other party's heart was strong, and her temperament was calm. She did not give up or become jealous when facing setbacks, and only worked hard to improve herself. Otherwise, they would be left behind by Luo Qingtong in the future. They thought of what Luo Qingtong had said to them before. Don't be left behind by me. I won't wait for you. They didn't have any extravagant hopes or ideas. They would wait for Luo Qingtong in the Academy of the Empire of Qin. They would wait for her to come back and participate in that grand event. Then, they would enter that mysterious place with her. They absolutely didn't want to be left behind by Luo Qingtong. The separation at this moment was to make it easier for them to meet and follow each other in the future. Thinking of this, they all fell silent. Chapter 1169. N. Luo Qingtong nods and looks at them. Work hard. I've prepared many kinds of fake soul seals for you. As long as you're willing to work hard, talent will never be an obstacle to your strength. But no matter how good your talent is, you still need enough strength to support it. Otherwise, you won't be able to display its power. So work hard. I hope that when I come back, I'll be able to see your improvement. Don't let me down. Yes, boss, don't worry. Yuan Hu and the others look at Luo Qingtong, then clench their teeth and leave one by one. Even Su Xiaoxiao, although looking at Luo Qingtong with tears in her eyes, reluctantly leaves in the end. She said that she wanted to be boss personal combat pharmacist, so she must not be left behind. She must not. After the group of people have all left, Luo Qingtong looks up at the sky not far away and asks in a deep voice, "Where's your master?" After that man checked her body to make sure there was no problem, he disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? Replying to the evil doctor master, Feng Yu's figure appears in midair. He doesn't know why Luo Qingtong can accurately find their presence every time. If they didn't know that Luo Qingtong's strength is indeed weaker than theirs, they would have thought that the other party's strength is stronger than theirs. That's why she can see their figure and aura at a glance. Thinking back to when they were in the Blackfield sub-city, they sent people to monitor Luo Qingtong and thought that they weren't discovered. They were simply drunk. How long has the evil doctor been lying to them? Feng Yu's heart is stifled as he thinks about it. Just as he is about to answer Luo Qingtong's question, all of a sudden, a figure appeared behind the girl. This venerable is here. Yi Qianxian's figure appears and takes Luo Qingtong's figure into his arms. Miss this venerable? Under the dark gold mask, the man's eyebrows raised slightly. Yes, I miss you. Luo Qingtong was not pretentious and admitted it directly. She was already used to having Yi Qianxian by her side. She felt strange after not seeing him for a few days. Luo Qingtong also knew that she was wrong. If it was her previous life, such a habit could easily become a fatal danger, and she would be used and betrayed by others. But when it came to this man, she didn't feel any fear or danger at all. It was because the man by her side would never become a burden or a threat to her. Instead, he was her strongest backing. This man was simply too treacherous. He used this method to invade her heart step by step. However, Luo Qingtong had to admit that Yi Qianxian's approach was just right. If he was too tough, she would sense danger and run away. If she was too weak, she would feel that this man was no challenge to her. Only Yi Qianxian, who was both tough and gentle, accompanied and waited for her, could make her unknowingly fall for him. There's simply no way to resist this kind of waiting and warmth. Luo Qingtong depressingly buries her head into the man's arms and hugs his thin and strong waist tightly. Yi Qianxian originally just asked casually. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong to actually admit it. That pair of deep and cold eyes instantly burst forth with a myriad of rays of light. Chapter 1170. That laughter was low and pleasant, mixed with indescribable joy. This sovereign also missed you, he said word by word. This woman was slowly opening her heart to him, revealing her softness to him. When he thought of this, Yi Qianxian's heart was filled with indescribable joy. His voice was low and hoarse, making one's ears tingle. When Luo Qingtong heard this, she felt as if someone had electrocuted her. Strange, her ears trembled slightly, inexplicably feeling a little hot. She raised her hand to touch her earlobes, feeling that this feeling was very strange. When she heard this man speak before, why didn't she feel this way? Luo Qingtong was stunned. At this moment, Yi Qianxian's voice sounded again. I've returned to the Black Field these few days. Qingtong, I'll be leaving in a few days to go to the outer realms. Luo Qingtong already knew about what happened over there, so Yi Qianxian didn't deliberately hide it from her. He looked at the young girl in his arms, and the scene when he returned to the Black Field surfaced in his mind. Yes, the strength of your meridians has indeed recovered to 1/10 of their previous strength. That Qingtong girl indeed has the power to heal the drawbacks of your heavenly veins constitution. After Elder Yu checked the situation in Yi Qianxian's body, he immediately came to this conclusion. He clicked his tongue in amazement. He did not expect that after thinking of so many methods, he was unable to alleviate Yi Qianren's situation at all. Luo Qingtong actually managed to repair close to 10% of his meridians. However, the strength of this power was slowly decreasing. It was very clear that Luo Qingtong's recovery was only temporary. The strength of Yi Qianxian's meridians would still weaken as time passed. It's a pity that that girl's strength isn't strong enough. Otherwise, she could directly heal all the strength of your meridians and see if they would weaken again. Of course, if we can find the source of her energy, we might be able to completely cure your heavenly vein constitution. Before Elder Yu could finish, Yi Qianxian's cold voice rang out. Don't touch her. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. The light within it was extremely cold. Got it. Elder Yu glanced at him unhappily. Sigh, it's a pity that you've taken a liking to that girl. Otherwise, I would have captured her and used some extreme methods to investigate the source of her energy. I wonder if that girl's blood and flesh would be of any use to your heavenly veins physique. Sigh, sigh, sigh. Facing Yi Qianxian's sudden attack, Elder Yuelao hurriedly flipped over and dodged to the side. F***ck, you little brat, you're going to attack just because you want to? I was just saying it casually. If you don't let me touch her, who would dare to touch her? I didn't eat too much. Anyway, the illness is yours. But, Elder Yuelao looked at Yi Qianxian and laughed. I couldn't tell that you're actually a rare affectionate person. You're so protective of that girl. I really don't know how those people who know you would be taken aback if this matter were to spread to Tiandu. Especially those people who threw themselves at you. I don't know how they're going to cry in hell. The man that they tried every means to obtain, who disdained them, had a soft spot for a little girl that they couldn't handle. Who knew how many people would be angered to death if this were to spread? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.